And I want to welcome you all. I'm Blake, the principal of Astor this upcoming 2021 school year. And I couldn't be more excited to join you all today. I know it's under very certain circumstances, and we're in our living rooms. We're in totally different settings than we typically would be, but we're definitely thinking forward and thinking for how to provide the best opportunities for our kids this upcoming fall. As a reminder, keep yourself muted throughout this. The meeting will be recorded, and I want to make sure that I first just kind of orient you with the Google Meets platform. If you happen to have joined us for the first time on it, you have an ability to put in different emojis on the top left. You can raise your hand, and you can actually mute yourself with the functions on the bottom. There's the camera, actually like going ahead and putting yourself on screen mute as well. And there's also the chat messages on the top right. In the chat messages, we are not going to be putting any questions there just right now or even today. We're going to be actually using a Padlet, and I'll share that with you in a moment. And that will give you an ability to ask some questions, and I'll respond to those at the end. We talk about digital citizenship with our students at Astor. They learn about how to enter the spaces, the appropriate language, that appropriate and respectful language that they use in these spaces, and making sure to even have our core values of Astor present on this virtual platform. So I encourage you to also utilize those things as well. So our goal of our meeting today, and by the way, if you happen to have come here yesterday, this might feel a little bit like deja vu to you. I will be going through a majority of the same slides that I went through yesterday. I'm also going to slow down my speaking a little bit today. I got some great feedback from our interpreter, Chris, who was speaking very fast yesterday. And so I'm going to slow down a little bit. But we do have some additional slides in here around some schedule pieces, some components there. Additionally, the questioning today might have a focus or emphasis for middle school. So there is a slight difference here. As we get closer to the school year, we will be breaking out into more grade-specific content information where there will definitely be heavier change from one meeting to the next, but this is definitely an opportunity to do a catch-all. So today we're going to learn a little bit about what's currently known about distance learning for this upcoming school year. We're going to see some potential scheduling components. We're going to learn a little bit about some of the digital tools. We're going to learn a little bit about the student and family supports that'll be present. And then, like I said before, you're going to have an opportunity to ask any questions that you still have and share any things that you feel like might come up and need to support your students. I want to draw your attention to a Padlet. And Tara, if she hasn't already, is going to paste that in. This is actually one of the learning apps that our students use at Astor, and it's super helpful in a way to collaborate and interact. And even in the process of creating this slideshow for you all and using this Padlet, I learned a ton about it. So our students get to explore these things, and as do our teachers, and it helps us to collaborate in this virtual world. Before I go on, though, I definitely don't want to miss the opportunity to introduce myself to you all. I'm going into my first year at Astor, and I couldn't be more excited to join the Astor community again. I've been a teacher in Portland Public Schools for the last almost 13 years. And I've taught everything from third grade all the way up through middle school. And I was actually a teacher at Astor about 6 years ago as a fourth and fifth grade teacher. I just absolutely loved my experience at Astor. And I really enjoyed working with a lot of the colleagues that are still here at Astor. And so I'm really looking forward to it. For the last 4 years, I was an assistant principal at Jason Lee, which is in Madison Cluster. But again, I couldn't be more excited to join you all, to lead you all through an uncertain time, but also great opportunities to be able to make things work best for our kids. And if there's one thing you definitely need to know about me, it's, well, the first thing is that I'm a parent too. I have two kiddos that go to Astor, a rising fourth and a rising seventh grader. And what I want to be true for them would be true for all of our kids. And that's my approach to it, is that I want social and emotional supports for our kids. I want to ensure that we have a welcoming school environment for all students and families, and that the academic and intervention, the academic intervention and extension is there as well that supports all students to flourish. And of course, I want to make sure that school is fun. And so we'll talk a little bit about how those things will happen over the coming slides. First, I want to make sure that we still go forward with our vision that we've set as a community. At Astor, we want to make sure that we develop students to be critical thinkers, to collaborate, solve problems, and lead a socially just world. And they'll have opportunities to do this within the classroom, but we want to also remember as educators to make sure that we focus in on diversity and honor the differences that we have, especially in our work in narrowing the achievement gap and opportunity gap with Black students, Indigenous students, and students of color, and making those welcoming spaces a big priority of the work that I have for us at Astor. Before I dive too much deeper into what I know and what I don't, I want to make sure that you have some of the information about district communication and Astor communication. So you're going to actually get access to these slides. I'm going to be sending out this slide deck with all the links and with a frequently asked question sheet that is being generated right now from the first grade and fifth grade questions yesterday, but also yours today. So the questions you ask might be questions that others have. You'll get these links. It's district has communicated already some of the links that are important. They also are asking for feedback. So you'll be able to provide that at this link here. For Astor communication, you're probably really all familiar with the Remind app already. While we were talking, you probably got already a Padlet link from me to direct you to how to start posting questions. Your teachers, though, will be primarily using the Remind app. That's something that was used at Astor last year, but now it's going to be used at all students throughout PPS, which is wonderful. So you'll be able to interact with your teacher via that app. You'll also get reminders, messages, and updates. We also have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't miss us online. I'll be posting the video of, if not this presentation, then last night's presentation there. I also want to make sure I welcome new staff. We have an incredible team joining us from all around the district, and I'm really excited to welcome them to Astor. Unfortunately, I don't have the ability to call them up on stage right now, but once school gets started, we'll have a way to welcome them officially to our school. We'll have bios and newsletter and opportunities at virtual assemblies, and I hope you get to meet them, and I appreciate you welcoming them to Astor. If you missed it, then here is the full team, almost the full team actually. We have one spot there about social worker, and I'll mention that in more detail later on. But this is our full team here of 2021 school year. I'm really excited to be working with this amazing group of educators that are already thinking about the days and weeks ahead and the months ahead for our community and how to make sure we have that high quality education for our kids, even in distance learning. I'm going to be talking a lot tonight, and you're going to hear from me more than you would typically hear from me in any given meeting. And I really hope that you're going to be hearing more from teachers and other leaders within our campus at meetings that are coming up. All right, I am hoping that I have one of our amazing PTSO members, Jessie Thurston, out there somewhere to take herself off mute. And this is the last of our nuts and bolts slides. Jessie, if you're there, if you could take yourself off mute, and then you'll be able to share a little bit about the PTSO.
Sure, I'm here, Blake.
Yeah.
So my name is Jessie Thurston, and I have two kids at Astor. I've got a 5th grader and a 7th grader, and I'm the events coordinator for the PTSO this year, which will probably show itself to be a challenging new position as we try to figure out how we're going to continue to keep events going and other fun things for Astor. The PTS goal this year is to continue to support the school, staff, students, and their families, and we're working with a strong focus on creating and building community. We feel it's more important than ever while our kids are distance learning, and we are looking for ways to hold community events virtually and are trying to think outside of the box for ways to creatively introduce some new and fun events. We encourage you to stay connected with us. This slide shows you all the ways you can do that. I'd like to highlight, we've got a new Astor Parent Community Facebook group. This group was started in order to offer a safe space for parents of Astor students to come together with other Astor parents and staff to ask questions, have discussions, and share resources. Lastly, if you're looking for ways to get involved, please check the PTSO website for more information and reach out to us with any questions, suggestions, or ideas. We're definitely open and willing to take in all suggestions for ways to keep the community connected.
All right. Thank you very much, Jesse. I really appreciate it. Thanks to all the PTSO members. I want to show that they've already been, like Jesse said, they've already been thinking and strategizing really, how do they ensure that we have events that have been so important for our PTSO and our community, parent, teacher, student organization in years previous. How do we adapt this to the virtual world? They're also restarting the efforts to get the groundbreaking going with that Naturescape. So I'm really excited about that, and I appreciate all the work they do. In case you are wondering why I was asking about, are you out there, Jesse? I'm actually on presentation mode right now. So I'm unable to see anybody out there, which is one of the limiting factors right now for me, but I trust you're all there. Thanks, Jesse. All right.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep, I appreciate it. Okay, so hey, what's school gonna look like this fall? I know that's the question on everybody's mind, including mine as a parent right now. And I'm gonna share with you things I know, and then some things I don't know, and to kind of be a little bit more transparent about why I don't know some of those things. Before we jump into that, I think it's really important to step back and reflect on really like where we've been. Not only just within our own families, but our school community and even our greater community. So if you'll think back, and I'm sure you, it seems like forever ago, but we were thrust into distance learning after a novel coronavirus, novel at the time, made its way into our state. And then we were on an extended spring break, a break through April, and then we were on a break through the rest of the year. And so it was lost learning, and it was big shifts. And so some of those things, what they looked like were survival, really, and a quick shift from that in-person to that distance learning. And we found ourselves really working hard to build a lot of capacity. And so we were handing out computers, getting internet out, but also learning about a lot of tech apps, learning apps, and learning platforms that might have been new. We're also making sure that we provided essentials to students and their families. And so that took the shape of meals, food, childcare, mental health, and healthcare itself. And so we learn things, and I think it's really important to step back because we don't want to forget about the things that we learned. We learned the importance of strengthening school-family partnerships. So we were making sure that we made those communications, those contacts with families, and in order to find out what families needed. We increased technology and access, and also made sure that students and teachers and parents all knew the programs that we were having. We understood the need to make sure they understood those things. So going forward, we're taking that with us. We understood the need to make sure we have access to those essential resources that I just mentioned. And we saw some formats that would be really great within the virtual setting world, especially small groups. And we saw the importance of clear communication and scheduling. That scheduling flexibility need is in that ability to be able to shift and be flexible was something that we saw is going to be a big need for this upcoming fall. And we also at Astor were lucky to be a tech smart school. So at Astor, your students are already familiar with a lot of the learning applications out there. Not all students in PPS were as familiar as Astor students, and so that served us really well. We'll continue to be a tech smart school in this upcoming school year, which is wonderful. But you might have also been feeling frustrated and confused and isolated, and you met those feelings with dispositions of being flexible and giving yourself and others grace, being adaptive to situations, innovative, and of course, making sure to provide yourself self-care. And so I hope all these things we bring with us as we go forward into this fall quarter. And I wish we were in a different place right now, but we're all at home and we're all in different circumstances together as a community. But the coronavirus is still there. And although our district laid out in front of us two potential options for the year. One of them being an online only option that's available for all students and families throughout the entire year, which is still available regardless of how we go forward here. And another model of hybrid where we have social distancing within the classrooms, and we have students on a cohort model or half on, half off schedule. We're now in the situation where we have all students for now, at least through November 5th, they're going to be online. And so the decision about that will be coming up in October. I'll share the date with you on that pretty soon if you hadn't seen it. So now what? Well, behind the scenes, there's been a lot of things going on. And the district has been hard at work making sure all the way back from April that we have the tools that we need in order to make sure that we're successful, especially with all the shifts that are happening. So Dr. K and myself are on work groups in the district. Work groups go from everything from equity all the way through to operations and transportation. And the district is still currently working with some of our labor union groups, like the teacher labor union groups and some of our certified employees to finalize schedules. And so while I don't have concrete schedules to give you today, the work is being done behind the scenes to ensure that it's there. There are also other things that are district decisions that have yet to be made, but really my role is to make sure I get you that clear information. And then things that we don't know about, things that we need as a community, I can advocate for that as your principal at Astor. But at the school, there's been a ton going on. So our school-based teams, like the instructional leadership team, is already thinking about all the professional development that teachers are going to need coming up. They're thinking about what are the shifts needed to make sure that we have that high quality instruction. And teachers, in fact, right now, this week from the 10th of August all the way through the 18th, are in a teacher institute where they're learning about all the online platforms, all the online learning apps, shifts in curriculum that might be adjusting content standards based on any loss of learning in the spring, so that we can best meet our kids' needs as they return to school. School this fall. And I also don't want to forget the office team who's been hard at work making sure that schedules are made and all the various pieces and nuts and bolts are put together. We're really lucky to have them. They've been working really hard. I also don't want to forget our facilities and custodial team. So even during this distance learning time, they're going to be key to making sure that we are ready to shift, to pivot, to make sure that we have the best facility possible. Shui, who is our head custodian, Jesus, and our new team member, Jason, have been working hard. And the school looks really, really incredible. It's amazing what they've done. They've been ready through all of it, just in case the word came. So we know that students will not, at least not be there through Q1, but they'll be ready and making sure that our facility is still looking great. So I appreciate this team, and thank you for joining me, and also sending them your thanks. So this fall, we're going to go from survive to thrive. We are going to make sure we do that academically, socially, emotionally. That's what you can expect. Our community is going to stay intact. We have a goal in making sure that our students and parents are still connected. And we're going to provide that academic rigor, engagement, and high quality academics that you would expect. And with the planning and preparation starting back in April, we're hoping to be better prepared for this virtual and distance learning platform coming up. You'll notice a lot of communication from me, and I'm getting you all the information I have. And part of the reason why we're meeting today is so I can share with you everything I know about, but also to gather questions. So that's a really important piece here. As I try to seek out answers, I can best be able to do that based off of what needs are. But I also say that upcoming meetings that will happen will be oriented more around specific things. So for instance, any kind of learning tech platforms that students will be using, and that you as a parent will be able to monitor classroom assignments and student progress. Also things around student and family support. So those smaller meetings will be advertised, and then if it's something that is something that support you need, then you'll be able to attend. We're also going to make sure that all parents and their students have the tech they need and the Wi-Fi internet they need as well, so we can provide that. But To be clear, we are getting lots of great guidance right now from our Oregon Department of Ed. They have a regularly updated guidance that comes to us that provides us some of the expectations and some of the things that we need to complete. So I'm going to start talking through some of what I do know. For this upcoming fall, we know that we're still going to have student and family resources available. We're going to have meal distribution sites and childcare sites as well. And these sites are to be determined. They're going to be determined. This is one of those things that's a district decision. They're based off some of the surveys that families completed. The mental health supports will continue and students will still have access to counselor. But like I mentioned, that in our team not being totally complete yet, we are excited because at Astor, we're going to have a social worker on our staff for the 2021 school year. And we're actually going to be partnering up with Rosa Parks and sharing their social worker. And so this person will be key and instrumental in making sure to connect students and families with outside resources. And we want to make sure that we also continue to provide those culturally specific community partners that are going to be really critical, especially in these times for Black students, Indigenous students, and our students of color and their families. So here's the timeline. I talked to you a little bit about decisions coming in October about Q2. But through all this, I want you to know that PPS has said that there is a 100% online option through all of it. So tomorrow, officially, you'll receive classroom assignments that are going to go out via Remind. And prior to August 27th, you're going to begin receiving tech for if anybody wasn't here at Astor or decided that they didn't want tech at that time, or maybe your tech is broken. My kid just fired up her laptop the other day and the speakers were raspy and they didn't work. So we're going to be on that list. And there's also going to be opportunities for parents to learn some of those digital learning platforms. I'll talk about what they are in a moment. So you'll look out for that. That'll be district communication, but I'll also make sure that I communicate that to you directly so that you're able to find out about those. On August 27th, we're going to welcome teachers back from spring break. They're going to begin their PD or their professional development. And then starting on the 28th, teachers are going to begin reconnecting with families. They're going to begin looking through what are the things to consider when developing schedules, and then finding out if there are any family or student supports that are needed. On September 2nd, we're going to start what's called a soft start. It's going to be attendance taken, and they're going to be regular Google Meets. I'm going to share what that's going to look like in a moment, but September 2nd is our start of school still. Our content instruction is going to begin on September 14th. And then I had mentioned to you about a decision on Q2, utilizing a board of people that have brought together a panel. They're going to make sure that those health professionals, in collaboration with our governor and the state, are making a decision about Q2 in this public health crisis of this global pandemic, to make the best decision there. So you can expect that on October 10th. Through all this, and I mentioned attendance already, but attendance will matter. And attendance is something that's really important for achievement. And it's going to be captured through a variety of ways. One way could be Google Meet, Classroom, live classroom video, or another could be through daily assignments that are completed. There, of course, will be considerations for flexibility around pieces, but that's some of the guidance we've got so far. And I'll give you more details as soon as I have it. But at this time, I don't have specific information beyond that. And like I mentioned, attendance is important for achievement, but it's really critical also for the funds that we receive as a school. Our ability to provide a robust program as a K-8 really depends on student enrollment. So I want to encourage everybody to keep their students enrolled at Astor. It's a community that I love. It's a community that I believe in. And if you have any questions that you have for me that might help you make a decision about that, then I want you to make sure that you reach out to me. My email is available in a lot of the documents that I share, but I'm going to have Tara share my email right now on the comments. And please reach out to me if you have any questions. So what is tech going to look like this school year? In a moment, I'm going to have Tara also post in Google form, which is a way that you can give us feedback. It's like a questionnaire on the comments, and that's a way to find out what Chromebooks are needed out there. But our platforms are Seesaw for K-5, but for our middle schoolers, we're going to have Canvas. And Canvas is a great way to interact with content, to see different courses. It's also a great way for parents to stay up to date with what activities, what assignments their students have coming up. There's an interface as well for teacher communication. And so the sessions on this will provide a little bit more clarity on all the different tools. And so I'll talk about the soft start in a little bit, but that's a great opportunity then to learn more about it. Tara, if you could go ahead and paste in the Google form for the Chromebook parent survey. If you didn't see this already come from me, this was something that is going to be important in capturing how many Chromebooks we need, Wi-Fi that's needed out there, and also as well as other considerations that we should take into account. A lot of people have been wondering, and actually a lot of teachers have been wondering also, is everything going to be online only? Is there any way that I can get materials, or in teachers' case, is there any way I can get materials to students? And so we're currently working through plans on that. Our vision is to make materials available through either school pickup or delivery. In the way we would do delivery would be through utilizing a school directory, which in your verification form that you'll receive digitally, or you can also have a paper copy of that, you'll have an option of either being part of the directory or opting out. If you'd like to opt out, that will ensure that only an administrator or teacher would make any deliveries. But if you would opt in, then you would have the ability to have our wonderful PTSO that we're going to be supporting with deliveries. We're going to be looking at what's the best and safest way to make sure that happens, because we wouldn't be able to do it without district guidance of paper packets, maybe worksheets, school materials, art materials, and library books, and of course, textbooks too. So what's the first week going to look like? And I mentioned a little bit already about soft start. I talked a little bit about prior to the 27th, getting that tech, building our capacity. I talked a little bit about teachers and the PD that actually already doing the thinking they're already doing about how are we going to make this shift from in-person to digital. But then once that those first couple of days of teachers back, they're going to be engaging with reaching out to you all, developing schedule, and then getting that out to you all by that first day of school, that September 2nd. You're going to have that synchronous whole group class for your student. And this time is going to be where we learn about the platform of Canvas, where we have follow-up with students and families we need to reach out to, and making sure that they understand and those platforms, but also have all the support and needs at that time. But we're going to really be going slow to learn some of these learning apps initially, then to go fast. So it's not too atypical, I would say, for a beginning of the school year, because in the beginning of the school year, we walk through all the expectations and the procedures that students need to know in their new grade level, and really make the beginning of the school year special in different ways. And so while it might take a little bit longer to navigate on some of the tech apps and learning apps, that component of learning procedures is still going to be there, even in this distance learning world. So you might be wondering, and I'm wondering too, as a parent, is what is the day going to look like? And so before I dive into different components, I think it's important to know two different terms, and they are synchronous and asynchronous. So synchronous is anything that's happening live. So this, for example, is a synchronous session, and it's at a scheduled time. There's also opportunities for us within this to interact. So we have that Padlet that's probably being filled up a little bit right now. And then I'll have an opportunity to interact with that. And then there's also opportunities for students to interact live time. Asynchronous is anytime it's not live. So students are working independently on those teacher created lessons or things that have been videoed beforehand that are directed by the teacher. So those components of social and emotional learning and building community, that's not going to just happen in the beginning of the school year. That's going to be ongoing. We'll have access to counselor, social worker, and of course, we'll have built-in breaks around student breakfast and also lunch. This year, we're going to make sure we have all of our electives provided for students throughout the year with specials, and also ensuring that core content is there with our whole and small group as well. Later in this session, you're going to get specific information about a form that's been created. Dr. K just recently created with the middle school team to gauge interest in electives. I'll share that with you at the end of this slideshow, but that's a way that we're going to just hone in and kind of really tailor to student interest during this distance learning time, what students want. We'll also have opportunities for applied learning that might be asynchronous, but also tiered support through any of the student services that students typically get within their program and their plan. Teachers are going to have an opportunity during the beginning of the year, but also ongoing throughout the year to ensure that they have strong school-family partnerships. So that'll look like time to connect with families and ensure that students who need support get it. All right, so I'm going to share with you a couple of slides that were most recently shared at the 8th grade, or pardon me, back up, at the most recent board meeting, which was on Tuesday evening. And so this was shared. This is a sample 8th grade schedule. And the idea here is that this is a student who has 6 periods. You'll see in this that the student in this example, and all examples will be tailored based on school site. So this is an example, certainly example, but it includes breakfast as well as 3 periods, and then applied learning and some small group time as well. Again, like I mentioned before, schedules are still being finalized with the district and labor groups. So more information on that to come as soon as I get that, and I'll share what I have with you. But teachers are going to be working collaboratively once they come back to school from summer break, and they're going to be collaborating on schedules that are flexible, that meet the cohort's needs, but also the school's needs. On another day for this example, 8th grade student, they would have periods 4, 5, and 6. So it would rotate like that on different days. Again, more detail to come. But we definitely know that we want to keep some culturally specific strategies in place. At PK and 5 level, we're keeping in with family engagement, but we're going to make sure that we offer mentor and leadership, extended learning, and enrichment for our middle school students, and a positive cultural identity as well. So more information on this to come, but I'd mentioned before that culturally specific partnerships were key to us, and they will continue to be key to us. So what about those things that make school fun? So absolutely, I totally agree. With anybody that asks that question, wonders what is it going to look like? Well, Astor teachers did a phenomenal job this past spring at having incredible parades that I know that all students were really super excited about. So we'll continue with those. We also have great new functions on Google Meet to provide live streaming to make character assemblies and other student celebrations and showcases easier to watch on platforms. We also, as I mentioned before, are going to have PTSO virtual events. And of course, we'll have those weekly video updates. And as I mentioned in the previous slide, we want to ensure that we have student affinity groups that are continuing as well, groups like GSA. And then finally, I mentioned this previously about electives. Those are really key. We want to make sure that students are aware of what the possible options are. So Tara, hopefully she hears me on this. She'll be posting in this form here into the comments, but I'll please know that I'll also send this form tomorrow, and that this will help teachers, that will guide them in the in what they're going to select as electives in the within the first week of school. Then you will see a schedule with those electives in place for your student. So we'll help guide them, really get that student input that's needed for that. I do want to share that there's an art teacher for middle school this year. So that is an offering as well. and we do have band as well. And I know the art teacher they're already in the art and band teacher already working hard right now to ensure that through distance learning that students still get those electives. For SPED and TAG, and there's going to be some more information coming out in the parent FAQ tomorrow, but there are going to be separate meetings scheduled for that, and I'm going to lean on the district to provide some of those intro meetings, but those meetings and more information will be coming as well. Mentioned already that frequently asked questions are going to be provided after this meeting. We already had that grade 1-5